Welcome to the JAMODI podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is JAMODI, just a matter of doing it. The JAMODI podcast is powered by Sideline Interactive. Sideline Interactive is the leading manufacturer for high-quality, innovative scoring tables and LED video display boards that help coaches and schools bring more excitement to fans, create huge fundraising opportunities, and make their jobs easier. Visit sidelineinteractive.com to check out their amazing products. You mentioned those, I think, the four, but if you want to go a little bit deeper into those.
Yeah, so leadership, family, effort, and toughness. Like I said earlier, leadership is kind of it's one value that encompasses all the other values. Shout out to Jamie Beckler. I think you had him on here as well. I took a little bit of this from him. I think he has great philosophy on leaders. But we believe every person from the best player to the manager can be a leader.
Yep.
That like everyone can be a leader. And so if your role is to be an energy on the bench, you're being an energy on the bench. If your role is to get every rebound, you're getting every rebound. If your role is to communicate because you have a keen knowledge of the game and you can help, and if you're an encourager, being an encourager, like there's some way, some talent or a skill or ability that you have that you can lead in. So we're all leaders. And we're gonna know that. But then, ultimately we're all going through this together, and it's not easy at times, and you can either lead positively or negatively in everything you do. So we talk about weight room. You're the guy that's getting 7 reps and you're supposed to be getting 8, and then everybody sees you. I can do 7 now too. He's doing 7, so you're leading the wrong way. Are you the guy in the gym that's cutting it short, or saying, Coach, everything's competitive in our practice. Coach, I'm supposed to make 8 free throws out of the 10. I made 8, but you really only made 6 because you didn't want to do 5 push-ups or whatever silly little thing it might be. So we talk about all of that. But then on the other side of it, man, there's kids that lead the right way in everything they do. That just ramp up the competitiveness in practice, ramp up the energy level, ramp up communication level. Like, man, that kid is talking. That kid is getting after it. That kid is doing those things. And so we talk about it all the time. Everything that you're doing, you can lead through your strengths, lead through your roles, but you can also just in that moment make a decision that the 2 people that might be watching you are going to do the right thing, or the 2 people or one person that, your bubble might be small, but you have influence, and you're going to influence either positively or negatively. So everything kind of comes from leadership for us. Then the second part is when you get really good and you know how to do everything day by day by day, and you walk the walk, then you can talk the talk a little bit. So we talk about our leaders being thermostats, not thermometers. It's an old leadership adage, but it hits home. Like, when there's a momentum swing and we need to come together, who's going to be the guy that brings us together and says, hey, we got this, and reinstills confidence in us. I love it. My best 2 communicators when it comes to in the moment, first playoff game, other team's a pressing team, we get down, 2 kids, both sophomores. You can lead. Anybody can lead. Guys, we got this. We just got to slow down, make the right reads. Let's make sure we're making the right passes. Let's make sure we're taking the right shots. We got this. Not me. These are the kids that are saying this. And so I believe you can give anybody the chance to lead, but knowing when that temperature needs to change and not just reflect it. If you're just reflecting it, then that, it's a game. It's a game of swings. We're going back and forth. It's a game of runs. We want to have kids that understand how to go against that adversity and bring people together. And it might not be with your voice. It might be with diving on the floor, taking a charge, getting someone an open shot, making the one more that gives us that momentum back, and doing those things. So, first and foremost, everything that we ask kids to do is lead themselves. And then once you're capable of doing that well, and within your role, within your abilities, and with everything you do daily, then we ask them to kind of lead with their voice, and lead as somebody that here has a position and can go ahead and be a captain per se, or a senior per se. But like I said, anybody could do it. two sophomores that stepped up at the right time, and I can remember it. Guys, we're fine. I don't care. We're down by 9. We're fine. We're gonna go get it, and they did that. So
I
leadership's
love
number one,
that.
and then family is number two. And when we talk about family, we're just really talking about selflessness. Leaders serve. Leaders care about the people that are around them. Leaders care about the people they're trying to help. We're gonna lift each other up, and first and foremost, like we're gonna put those people in our lives first. And sometimes, as you know, you said about my story of adoption, sometimes our family is not necessarily our blood, but we choose who we get to love and sacrifice for. And so this is our family, this is our brotherhood. And these guys, you'll probably spend more time during the season around them than you do your brother, sister, mother, or father. So we're going to choose to help them and lead them and be selfless and serve them and put them first in everything we do.
We go into that a little bit since we're talking about family, just about that story that you do have, and because I would imagine like it's really nice when we get to within the culture of our team, we get to use those personal stories that we have
Sure.
that will help even make it more real or I guess more dynamic for our players.
Yeah.
So go
Yeah.
ahead.
For me, we talk about family, and as I said, sometimes family's not blood, but we also talk about toughness. When we talk about toughness, that core value has nothing to do with physical toughness to me. I'm like, yeah, I want you to go, be physical, not be scared to take a charge, throw your body around on rebounds, put your chest out there and play defense. But when we talk about toughness, it's about how you respond to adversity, how you respond through the times when you don't even think you can keep going, like you just want to quit. You still respond with the right attitude, the right effort, the right emotions, and you continue on. You make the right decisions, even though everything's telling you just to quit and give up. So that's when I talk about kind of my story a little bit, me and my wife's story. A lot of people go through it, but we went through infertility. Um, I tell kids all the time, we tried to have kids and we couldn't do it. We tried some more and it was fun. All of it was fun and we went after it, but it just didn't happen for us. So we went to the doctor. And they basically said it's going to take a miracle for you to conceive naturally. So ultimately, it's a punch in the gut. And after me and my wife and it took us some time to kind of deal with it and go through it, but I think it might have been a month or two we dealt with it, and God kind of put the foster system right in our front view. And he did that. And the more you learn about the foster system, and I will tell everybody this, it is tough. Some of these kids' stories are hard. When they come into your home, it's going to be hard to deal with them. We were blessed to foster 2 kids and then 2 more, and the 2 more we have now we adopted. But we got them initially when my daughter was 4 and my son was only 10 weeks. So my son, he's relatively pretty much just he's one of ours, doesn't know any different. But my 4-year-old has a completely different story, completely different set of baggage and trauma that comes with that, and it's not easy. It's hard, it's tough. But what I tell my kids through my story is I had a response. I could respond one way and get down and get depressed and get, woe is me, or I could do something different and I could find a different route. And I found a different route. And what's funny is the same thing I tell my kids, I tell my 4-year-old daughter who's going through a lot of trauma and a lot of things. You still have a response. I know your mom is this, and this, and I know you went through this, and this, and I know school is harder because this and this, and I know this, but you still have a response. And so, our definition of toughness is having the ability to control what you can control, no matter what life throws at you. You still control what you can control. And like I said, it's hard, but it's the best blessing me and my wife have ever received. I'll try to get this up there.
There it is.
Cadence is now 8. Ricky is 4. And we are, as we said earlier, living the dream.
How's the 8-year-old now?
She's good. There's still some things we work through with her. She was, is what it is. But she was very well connected to her bio mom. Even though she didn't take care of her very well, and there's a lot of things that happened to her. But yeah, she's doing well. She's in 2nd grade. learning, going at it. Softball, I think she's going to be a really good first baseman because she's a lefty. So she's naturally set up over there. Last game she went 2 for 2, so made Dad proud, and she's doing great. And that's what a lot of people see is how she's doing, but then there's a lot of stuff underneath that's tough that Mom especially has to work with her on, but wouldn't change it any other way. And I have to say this, I have a relationship with God, and so does my wife, and we wouldn't have done this if we were not prompted to. But I'll tell you this, my wife's name is Rachel Lynn, first name, middle name. Bio mom's name, first name, middle name, Rachel Lynn. My daughter's middle name, Lynn. On her birth certificate, we didn't change it. So I just
Wow.
think that God works in mysterious ways, and He pushes you to different things. But through all that, I've learned what toughness really is, and I try to instill in my daughter and my athletes what toughness really is, and that's like, this stinks. This situation is bad, and it might not even be able to get any worse.
Yeah.
But you still have the ability to control what you could control, and you still have a response. So that's what we talk about with toughness.
Man, thank you for sharing that. Um, yeah, I have no clue. I can't imagine what it's like early on when you got that news. You mentioned a month or two of some struggle. How cool is it that God puts people in our lives to help with that struggle? Because I mean, obviously, that would be a different situation on your own, but that's hard. But He puts somebody else in your life to go through it with,
Yeah.
and like that's huge. But then also just the trust that it must have taken, because like toughness, like you said, control what you can't control. I think sometimes when things get really hard, what's easy is just to close doors, to
Yeah.
close yourself off, to protect yourself in that way. But then to have the trust in Him that we had this hurt and this ache, but there's a need out there, and there's kids that we can help. And just really appreciate your openness and sharing that. And I would imagine, kind of going back to your team, like I shared my story with my guys. We don't need to give edited testimonies and testimony, or just don't leave out details in your life when you struggled. Let them know. Let
Yeah.
them know, because a lot of times, I don't know, my players used to tell me, or they told my assistant coach, they thought I was a robot. They thought, because I show up every day and I'm pretty, I
Yeah.
bring a lot of enthusiasm. I choose joy daily, but they don't.
Yeah.
I wasn't always like that. My 20s were dark. And so, but we need to let them know that, man, through toughness, but also putting your faith and trust in the right person,
Yeah.
that you can make it through those tough times. And it may not really click for them now, coach, but they're all going to most likely have families, and they're going to go through something.
Yeah.
And that story is going to really help them later on.
I hope so. But I do completely agree. I think kids see sincerity, and they also see lack of sincerity. So if you're not gonna be real with them at times, then I think you lose some respect there, lose some influence. And I talked about leadership. If I'm not gonna be the first one to model what I need to model every day, then how am I gonna ask them to be the right leader as well? And definitely want people to, especially in this day and age with so many mental health issues and so many different. I want kids to talk to me. I desperately think that's important. And hey, I'm tough, and I'm hard on kids, and you know I push them to limits and try to break some limits just out of helping them out, and getting them to a place where they are tougher, or they man, coach, I didn't think I could do that. Well, you did. And he's like, thanks for pushing me. They come back and say that. They don't know that in the moment,
Yeah.
but I also, on the flip side of that, be able to push them so hard, I also need to be able to go, hey, is everything all right? And for them to really go, no, coach, it's not. Like, so sharing stories like that, sharing the up and downs of life, I think is a must if you want to truly be a true leader and ask kids to be a leader.
I do love one thing you said about the idea of a leader in every locker, or that idea of that is
Yeah.
because I think often we choose captains, we choose leaders, people that we definitely see that might have the ability, the desire to take a more active role.
Yes.
But how often are there players that feel like they really have no responsibility in that department at all? Well, that's the coach, those are the captains, and then they almost take like a just hey, feed me role.
Yeah.
Like I'm
Yeah.
just going to take and take and take, and they end up. I think that's where a lot of your energy vampires kind of come
Sure.
from,
Sure.
is the fact that they don't think that they are a leader, and
Yeah.
but then the flip side, acknowledging that there are different ways to lead. And I don't know about you, I've really never been able to force somebody to lead in a way that they didn't want to. Like, meaning
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I see something in this player that could propel him to be a great communicator, a
Yeah.
guy that holds other accountable. But what if, and I see this a lot, I feel like in players, I'm going to say it, in players today, a lot of them I feel like do want to be a part of the group. They don't
Yeah.
necessarily want to, they don't want to be left out, but I
No.
don't know if they necessarily want to stand out either. So I
Yeah.
think there is this art to it of obviously propelling and pushing forward those dudes that just naturally, it's just gravity,
Yeah.
it comes out of
Yeah.
them. But then also understanding and celebrating the way that other guys lead that may not be as loud.
Yeah. Yes. My arguably my best player last year. I'll say arguably just because I don't want any fights in the locker room, but he was our best player last year. He'll be our best player next year. Um, he
Arguably.
he arguably he said this, and I've never told him this, but I always every opportunity I get to help a kid lead in a certain way, I'll take. So we do camp. I got my little kids up there, first grade through fifth grade, and I varsity players. I tell one of them to come every day into one of our standards, and you got to talk about it to these young kids for 5 to 10 minutes, and it better be well prepared and it better be done right. And by that, I don't need you to say anything that you've heard me say. I just want you to talk on leadership. And this kid comes in and says, and he lives it out every day. I absolutely love it. He's a leader by example. He's not overly loud. He doesn't communicate. He's not a rah rah guy. He is a steady. This is how we're going to do things. He competes. He
Yeah.
gets after it, but he's not a. It's just not that rah rah type of guy. And it is what it is with him on that. And I've asked him to talk more and to speak more, and I think he's raised his bar on that a little bit. But his bar is never going to be as high as some other ones. But he comes in and gives this speech about leadership, and one thing that he says that I actually keep in our like part of our culture now, is that it sounds so good. Somebody else has had to say it, but he said leadership, right, is not a position. It's not a noun. Leadership is a verb. It's an action. He goes, my position as a leader of our team next year. He goes, it's not, if coach makes me a captain or they vote me to be a captain, it's not a title. It's not a position. Leadership is not, because being a captain is not a title. Being a captain is a verb. It's about an action. And I was like, man, that's so
That's
good.
so good.
That's so good. Like, how old are you? You're 16? What's
You're
up,
standing
man?
behind him, jotting notes down real
Yes.
quick, but those are
And so,
special
yeah,
moments.
yes.
Then where like when they really take that ownership of the culture, when it goes beyond just a nice quote that sounds good, that somebody catches us on video saying it, just makes us look
Yeah.
really. It goes beyond that.
Yeah. No, it was straight from him. I never said it in my life, and he just came up and said, "Leadership's not a noun;
So
it's a verb."
you got leadership, family,
Family
toughness,
and effort.
effort.
And then when we talk about effort, it's I got lucky. My first year, I taught in Oklahoma, Guthrie, Oklahoma, and coached there and did basketball. And I got to work for a guy named Pete Paparonis. Pete, I think he has a combined 5 state championships, and we went to the state tournament that year. 3 in boys and 2 in girls. he played professionally in Greece. He's actually
Oh, wow.
was born there and went back and played for the national team there. So he's 6'7", 6'8". Shoulders are like bowling balls. Nobody says anything to him. But his acronym, and the kids definitely do it, and I think they buy into it because he's won with it. But is AOATT, and that stands for all out all the time, AOATT. And so, we talk about that, like we're going to be relentless with our effort. We're going to go all out, or we're going to pursue going all out. And as our pursuit of going all out, then all out will actually grow and grow and grow and grow. So the effort that we can give the week 1 is going to be way different than the effort we can give in week 12. So we talk about effort is not just like, hey, I went hard on that drill. Can you go hard on every drill? It's not just I went hard on Monday.
Can't be selective.
And then when we talk about this, we also talk about discipline. We have to have discipline in our effort. We have to always choose discipline over feelings. We have to do what we can in that moment to get the best effort possible, no matter how I feel, emotionally or physically. And so that kind of rounds about what we talk about: leadership, family, effort, and toughness.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the JAMODI podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.